the 1970s as an act of social and political defiance, it's now one of the world's most famous gay pride events. But is Sydney's annual Mardi Gras selling out?
Why are 1 million people or 500,000 people going to wait a couple of hours to see a parade which is essentially advertising?
On this week's programme, we investigate why some members of Sydney's gay community feel let down after their annual Mardi Gras changes its name. We head to Argentina to sample the sounds of traditional folk music, and I'm not talking tango, as we meet one artist who's keeping the tradition alive for generations to come.
And later on the Fast Track Travel Clinic, the airline changes both the time of your flight and the departure airport. Can you change your mind and get a refund?
Hello and welcome to Fast Track. I'm Fiona Foster. Thank you for joining us on our travels this week. First off, we're heading to Australia, where the annual Sydney Mardi Gras celebrates its 35th birthday next month. It's become one of the biggest and brashest gay pride events in the world. And it also attracts tens of thousands of tourists, keen to see the event, which culminates in its annual parade, a colourful and dazzling display of celebration, pride and self-expression. But a recent decision to remove the words gay and lesbian from the festival's official merchandising has caused some controversy amongst Australia's gay community. We sent Krista Larwood to Sydney to investigate.
For most of the year, Sydney is best known for its beautiful weather, sparkling harbour and laid-back lifestyle. But come February, the city is overrun by partygoers in feathers and sequins and not much else, as one of the biggest gay and lesbian festivals in the world takes to the streets. The Sydney Mardi Gras is a month-long celebration of sexual diversity, culminating in the biggest parade in Australia, when around 9,000 performers and 100 floats wind their way through Sydney's King's Cross. This year, the 35th annual Mardi Gras will take place, and while it promises to be a great party, it will also mean big business for the city, attracting up to 300,000 spectators to the parade alone and injecting $30 million into the local economy. Taylor Square is a hub for the gay community in Sydney. It's pretty quiet today, but come Mardi Gras time, this place will be buzzing with performances and parties and of course the parade, which comes right by here. Even the streets are going to reflect the spirit. Sydney City Council is planning to turn regular black and white pedestrian crossings into rainbow-painted symbols of gay pride. As the Mardi Gras approaches, one of the busiest places in town will be the costume shop, House of Priscilla, as revellers descend to pick up their outfits.
Oh, now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Mardi Gras. It's like a silly season for us gay guys, I guess. Time for us to dress up, have fun, and just go all out. It's a celebration of just us being accepted within the world, and obviously, you know, the norm or the heterosexual people accepting us and coming out and celebrating with us, and just, you know, all united as one.
But the festival is in the midst of a controversy. Last year, organisers rebranded it from the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras to simply the Sydney Mardi Gras, a festival of love for everyone. This has led to concerns among some that the event is somehow going straight, diminishing the importance of gay pride history in order to become more mainstream.
We are more than a gay and lesbian organisation, although that is primarily, you know, and has been our history, and we're very respectful of that. But we've moved to Sydney Mardi Gras because we are now a LGBTQI organisation being lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer and intersex. Our rationale for being is about inspiring the world to love each other equally. That's what we've gone through with our name change and with our rebrand. And I think that the evidence is quite clear in the levels of success that we've already achieved just over the last 2 seasons.
It certainly seems to have been a popular move. In previous years, audience numbers had been dwindling and the festival ran at annual losses of up to $600,000. Following the name change in 2012, however, ticket sales were up, the number of parade spectators increased by 1/3, and the organisation is now back in the black. But not everyone is happy with the new image. Maeve Marsden, director of an all-female show appearing at the upcoming festival, is one of those who oppose removing gay and lesbian from the name.
It's a festival that celebrates a community that has a history of oppression, and by naming that community and saying we're the gay and lesbian community or the LGBT community or the queer community, I would have been okay with a name change as long as it kept that queerness in the title. And the idea of taking that away, maybe to please the straight community or something, seemed not only simplifying really complex issues, but also kind of patronising. There are straight girls in my show, my business partner's straight, they're happy to celebrate queer culture and participate in a gay and lesbian festival. We don't need to change the name to please them, they're happy.
As a result of these concerns, in the coming weeks, the Sydney Mardi Gras organisers will be consulting with their community about what the festival should be called, and this might just result in another name change. But for some, this dispute over the name is part of a wider concern that the event is becoming too mainstream and corporatised, with major companies such as Google and IKEA sponsoring floats in the parade. It's a far cry from the first Mardi Gras in 1978, when male homosexuality was illegal. Participants were met not with cheering crowds, but with a line of police with batons, resulting in a series of violent beatings and 53 arrests. One man who's seen the evolution of the Mardi Gras from its very beginnings is Ken Davis. He's marched in 33 of the parades since then and has concerns for its future.
It costs a lot of money to run, and therefore they want government sponsorship. They want sponsorship from, big companies. But there's an enormous danger in becoming so mainstream. And if the lead presentations in the Mardi Gras parade are simply about banks or drink companies or alcohol or furniture companies or I don't know what, why go? Why are 1 million people or 500,000 people going to wait a couple of hours to see a parade which is essentially advertising?
We want to put something on that's not mediocre. We want to put something on that's world best standards of events. To do that, it costs money. It costs several $1 million to put the parade on. And if we don't put on stellar performance events, we won't get people come to them.
When the final decision about the name and identity of the festival is made in the next few weeks, one thing is certain: not everyone will be happy. And the Mardi Gras will no doubt still be the cause of controversy, just as it has been for 35 years.
Crystal Arwood reporting from Sydney, where whatever it ends up being called, the Mardi Gras will be kicking off in a couple of weeks' time. And do let us know what you think about that name change. Is it just a matter of things moving on and becoming more inclusive, or do you see it as a cynical marketing ploy to attract more tourist dollars? Wherever you are in the world, we'd love to hear from you at our usual email address, fasttrack@bbc.com. And that's how many of you got in touch following our recent programme.
Last week we sent Rajan to Egypt's Valley of the Kings, and lots of you got in touch with us about his report on possible plans to move the original tomb of Tutankhamun out of public view and replace it with a replica.
For more than 3,000 years, this tomb survived intact, in almost pristine condition. But after only 9 decades of tourism, with up to 1,000 visitors trooping in here every day, well, the conditions deteriorated dramatically. And the main reason for that was this: human breath.
Well, following that report, it seems you're divided on those plans to build a replica tomb. Rulo Barker from Springfield, USA, was definitely in favour of the move.
As a lifelong preservationist, I believe the original tomb should be closed to the public. Otherwise, Egypt will soon lose the original.
Tina Holdrup, who lives in Egypt, wants the tombs preserved.
As a devotee and enthusiast, I want to see these great monuments preserved. So I'm in favour of installing a replica of Tutankhamun's tomb to preserve the original.
We've also had comments from our Facebook page. Tony Hickman from the UK says seeing a replica would not have the same impact as seeing the original.
If I wanted to visit a mock-up of the tomb, then why travel to Egypt when there's a replica of the tomb in Dorchester in Dorset?
And David Stringer from Manchester in the UK simply left us this comment.
Absolutely not. Having visited the Valley of the Kings, there is absolutely no way to recreate the original setting.
Now let's have a look at what else has been making news in the world of travel this week.
If you've flown into or out of the UK this week, you may have been delayed due to adverse weather conditions. London's Heathrow Airport and British Airways have both been criticised for not reducing the number of flights following predictions of heavy snow. Thousands were forced to sleep on the floor at the airport, but the Civil Aviation Authority says there's little chance of any compensation if you were one of the unlucky people stranded, but you should have been offered an alternative flight or a refund. Tourists in Tuscany are being warned to watch out for packs of wolves which have been driven down from the mountainous areas by cold weather. If you're planning a visit, the advice is not to approach the animals, as there are fears they could attack humans. And sunbathers on a beach north of Brisbane in Australia had a surprise when a 2-metre dusky shark turned up on the shoreline. A British tourist dragged the shark away from children that were playing on the beach in an attempt to return it to deeper water. The animal was eventually led away from the beach by helicopters and lifeguards on jet skis.
We're off for a short break now, but do stay with us because coming up we're heading to Argentina to sample some of the characteristic sounds of traditional folk music in the northwest of the country, and I don't mean tango. Plus, Simon Calder's here with his regular travel clinic and advice about what to do when the airlines just aren't playing ball.
Hello and welcome to the Fast Track Travel Clinic with me, Simon Calder. And let's start in the Transit Lounge at Madrid Airport, which is where Samuel Okpoko Warwick of Port Harcourt in Nigeria found himself staying for an uncomfortably long spell after an Iberia flight from Lagos.
I was connecting to the USA on Iberia, but the flight was cancelled. I and a few other unfortunate people were not allowed out of the transit area because of our nationalities. We had to try to sleep on the chairs until the next morning. What are my rights?
Some hubs have hotels airside, which means that you don't have to pass through immigration. But at most airports, including Madrid, to reach a hotel you have to go through passport control. Iberia tells me it had booked a hotel room for you, but you couldn't take advantage of it because of your immigration status. However, there's a chance of good news. Under EU rules, you should qualify for €600. That's about $700 in compensation for the cancelled flight, unless the airline can show that it was due to exceptional circumstances beyond its control. Sharon Halls is flying on Vietnam Airlines from Hanoi to Bangkok's main airport to seek sea and sunshine in Thailand. She booked an airport hotel and an onward Air Asia flight to the Thai resort of Hua Hin next morning. What could possibly go wrong?
A few weeks after we'd booked the flight, AirAsia announced their flights were switching to Bangkok's old airport. That was bad enough, but then they changed the flight time from 10:40 a.m. to 8 a.m. Given the terrible traffic in Bangkok, we'll have to leave by 5 a.m. and pay $30 for a taxi. The airline wouldn't refund our money. What can we do?
Sadly, Sharon, the terms that you agreed to when you bought your AirAsia ticket means the airline can change both the airport and time of departure without offering a refund. AirAsia says you can switch to a different flight a week either side of the original, which clearly you don't want, or cancel the flight and get a credit voucher for another AirAsia flight within 3 months, which I understand is no use to you. All you can do is be thankful that the taxis in Thailand are cheaper than those in Paris, London or New York, where you pay around $150 between the main airports. Next, Dinshaw Dastur from Toronto is going globetrotting in May, and one of his flights is on Scoot from Singapore to Sydney.
After I booked, the fare for the exact flight was reduced. When I asked for the difference to be refunded, the airline never responded. Shouldn't I be entitled to the reduced rate?
In general, the earlier you book, the cheaper the ticket. There are no guarantees. Some airlines offer to refund the difference if a fare falls after you book it, but even these are hedged with conditions and often don't apply for promotional sales. From experience, I know how infuriating it can be to see a fare fall, so I've learned if you like the price, book the flight and never check to see if you could have got it cheaper. Finally, Christine Mackey from Nottinghamshire in the English Midlands is setting sail for the South Seas, but first she has to fly to Florida.
I'm trying to book a one-way ticket to Orlando from the UK for a sensible price. I'll be leaving Florida by sea to New Zealand. But one-way economy fares are twice as much as round-trip tickets. What happens if I book a return ticket but just don't turn up for the return leg?
In theory, Christine, the airline could pursue its right to claim the fare difference from you, but I've never heard of this happening. Happily, I found a fair-priced one-way flight from either of your 2 nearest major airports, Manchester or Birmingham. You'll pay around $600 one way with a brief stop in Dublin. That's all we've got time for in this session of the Fast Track Travel Clinic. From me, Simon Calder, bye for now and see you next time.
Thank you, Simon. Let's finish today in South America. Now, when you think of Argentine music, most people think of the tango. But different regions of the country have different musical styles, reflecting the area's way of life and history. They're often characterised by the use of local instruments, traditional dress and dance styles.
My name is Rodrigo Verástegui Soria. I am a musician from Salta and I play the guitar and sing at the Casona del Molino. This is the heart of the folk music in Salta, and for me it's like my second home.
Salta is a musical city. We have a lot of musicians, a lot of poets.
Ramita seca en el fuego, que no sé qué.
The principal reason is the mix between different cultures from another countries, another places. Salta was the center between Lima and Buenos Aires. We are in the middle of South America. And in the time of the colony, you know, the people share music, share business, you know, and the people sing in each language. And sometimes we think it's the origin of the folk music.
He's Babolero Vázquez. He's a really famous handcraft. He make bombo, little drum in Salta. The father of the bombos in Argentina. Yeah. Vamos, compañeros míos, busquemos cuatro chingadas.
Pero es parte de nosotros eso, del salteño, de muy...
It is part of the salteño tradition to get together with friends, eat an empanada and have a bit of wine. And before you know it, the music starts and we all end up singing. This is the spirit of Salta.
Y eso es Salta, ¿no?
Claro.
Y en esta habitación se gestó toda la movida folclórica.
The revolution of Argentinian folk music originated in this very room in the 1960s. Here, folk music was rescued from oblivion. In fact, folk became so popular in Argentina in the 60s that the country ran out of guitars and the instrument had to be imported from Brazil.
Music is part of our upbringing. We play folk instead of playing reggae or jazz because it was passed on from our parents and grandparents.
Y también por gusto lo hacemos, porque vemos que la mayoría de los jóvenes.
And also because we like it very much. Most youngsters prefer cumbia or rock, but folk is our music.
Well, it's time to work.
The thing about folk music here in Argentina is it's a mixture of poetry and music. If you take them both together, you get something which is greater than the two halves. And I can honestly say that the only time I've ever cried in my life listening to music is when I listen to Argentine folk music. The big softy that I am.
The taste of traditional Argentine folk music. And that's it for this week. Next week we're on a reality trip in Venezuela, where some foreign tourists, they're not looking for the art galleries and the museums, they're interested instead in politics, social change and day-to-day life. Plus we're far, far off the beaten track in Finland, looking at the science of tree hugging, all in the name of research.
I feel like this tree is stronger than me.
Our intrepid reporter getting back to nature in Finland. In the meantime, don't forget, you can always find out what we've been up to on our website, bbc.com/fasttrack, and of course, we're on Facebook, Pinterest and Twitter. So, until next time, from me, Fiona Foster, and the rest of the Fast Track team, thanks for watching, have a great trip wherever you're heading next, and goodbye.